Wake up! If you're a teenager, the alarm comes way too early. But now, California is going to start high school later. Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. This is lesson 487, so JR has uploaded all of today's great content to plainenglish.com/487. Coming up today, teenagers' biological clocks tell them to sleep around 11 and wake up around 8 o'clock in the morning. The problem is, school has already started by then. So legions of teens trudge bleary-eyed to school, struggle to stay awake, and suffer the consequences. Now, California is trying to make it just a bit easier on them by starting school later. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you how to use the English expression stay up. And JR also has a song of the week. I just want to remind you also of the bonus video training I put together earlier this week. It's totally free, and the training video is all about being an active learner. You can get that by visiting plainenglish.com/active, ACTIVE, plainenglish.com/active. For many high school kids in America and around the world, the alarm goes off around 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning. For me, that was miserable. I had a hard time waking up, getting out of bed, and rushing to the bus stop on time. As an adult, I'm most alert and most productive at the beginning of the work day. But as a teenager, I struggled to stay awake and to concentrate during those early classes. My high school started class at 7:50. That means we were at school by about 7:30 each day. I had to get the bus before 7 o'clock, which meant that 6:30 was the absolute latest I could wake up. Now, this is a problem because teenagers have unique sleep needs at this age. Adolescents' circadian rhythms shift about 2 to 3 hours, so their bodies want to go to bed around 11 and wake up around 8 o'clock. So their biology is telling them to sleep longer and sleep later. But their schools are telling them to wake up early. Well, now the state of California is trying to change that at least a little. A new law says that public schools can start no later than 8:30. Legislators hope that this change can let teenagers get more of the sleep they need to function in school. Now, you learned in lessons 292 and 293 how important quality sleep is. If teenagers don't get enough sleep, they find it hard to stay awake during the day. When they feel sluggish, they choose screen time over being active. They might have behavioral challenges, and most important, they learn less right at the point in their lives when they should be learning more. Studies have shown that starting school later can improve teenagers' lives. You might think that teenagers would respond by just staying up later at night. But that isn't what happens in practice. Studies have found that later school start times do lead to more sleep on weeknights. And that means teenagers have better attendance at school. They don't fall asleep as much in class. They get better grades. They are less prone to depression. And they get into fewer car accidents. So why aren't more places shifting the starting times? You can chalk a lot of this up to logistics. In the United States, most kids go to school on a bus, and most school districts use one fleet of buses to take elementary, middle, and high school students to school. So that means that some kids have to start early if the buses are going to take everyone to school. And many districts think that it's safer for older kids to wait for a bus early in the morning when it might still be dark. That way, the younger kids wait for the school bus when it's light outside. Student activities, including sports, also happen after school. So if school starts half an hour later, and if school then ends half an hour later, then there's less time and less daylight available for sports practices. There are also parents' work schedules to consider. If all schools started later, parents would struggle to get their kids on the bus before they themselves have to get to work around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Still, some school districts are starting to prioritize kids' sleep. They recognize that there's no one start time that will be convenient for every family, so they may as well choose the option that's best for kids' health, but still not totally disruptive to the economy. Next year, California school districts will start high school no earlier than 8:30 and middle school no earlier than 8 o'clock. Legislators in New Jersey and Massachusetts are considering a similar change. A nonprofit organization called start school later advocates for later start times around the US. I read about one private school in Dubai that starts high school at 9 o'clock, and they have more interest than they can possibly accommodate. Oh, what I would have done to start school at 8:30. That would have been 40 extra minutes in the morning. You know, the thing that surprised me was the studies that showed teenagers actually did sleep that extra time. They didn't just stay up later during the week. Now, thinking back on this now, I remember it was often a real struggle to stay awake in school. And it was like that for everyone. I don't remember what time I went to bed in high school, but I think it was close to 11. And the alarm would be at 6:15 or so. And I remember really struggling to stay awake in school, usually in the morning, but anytime. Now, not having enough sleep is not fun. I know that now. But at the time, you just had to accept what the school does. I mean, we didn't even realize there was another better way to do it. So I hope the kids in California know how lucky they are to be starting school at 8:30. Today's expression is a phrasal verb, stay up. This is an easy one to use. It just means to stay awake, and it usually means to stay out of bed. So let's start with two ways to use stay up. If you stay up for something, you stay awake so that you can do something late. And if you stay up until a certain time, that means you are awake at that time. So here's an example. On New Year's Eve, a lot of people stay up for the ball dropping ceremony in Times Square. They stay awake so that they can see the ball drop high over Times Square in New York City. Now that's easy for people in Los Angeles. The ball drops at 9 o'clock p.m. on the West Coast. But if you're on the East Coast, you have to stay up until midnight to see the ball drop. So people in New York stay up until midnight, and they stay up for the ball dropping ceremony. You can also say they stay up to see the ball dropping ceremony. Now, earlier today, we were talking about teenagers and their circadian rhythm. Their bodies are telling them to stay up until about 11 p.m. That means their bodies are telling them to stay awake until about 11. You can also say stay up until something happens. Have you ever stayed up until sunrise? I have, although I do that less and less these days. If you have a teenager and your son or daughter goes out at night, what do? Do you go to bed and see them in the morning? Maybe, but I bet you stay up until they get home. You stay up until they get home. That's very common for concerned parents. They stay up, they stay awake, they stay out of bed until their kids get home. Well, baseball, you guys know, is my favorite sport. And unlike many sports, there is no clock in baseball. If the game is tied after 9 innings, they keep playing until there is a winner. I used to like to stay up until the end of the game. I hated going to bed without knowing the winner. But now I only stay up until the end of the game if it's really good. I have my own new circadian rhythm to think about these days. Well, in Plain English Plus, we do live calls several times per month, and we change the time zones, the starting times, so that everyone has a chance to join at least 2 per month. But sometimes I join the call, and it's the middle of the afternoon here, and a Plus member from Asia is on the call. Now that's rare, but it happens. When it's 1 p.m. here, it's the middle of the night in Asia. But once in a while, a Plus member will stay up really late for the live conversation calls. It's Thursday, so JR has a song of the week. It is Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton. Jack Daniels is made in the state of Tennessee. For background, the song was released in 2015 and has a blues style, guitar, drums, vocals. The song is about someone who was a hard drinker but met someone who rescued him from hitting bottom with his drinking. It's a sweet song. One line is, "You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey." Great song this week, JR. Thank you. Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton. Well, I am not a liquor drinker, so I don't think any liquor tastes smooth, but that's just me. Earlier this week, we were talking about being an active learner. It was that Socrates quote, "Let me do and I understand." And that really got me thinking about how we as learners can put that Socrates quote to work. So I researched the difference between active and passive learning specifically related to languages. And I put together a great 30-minute training video about that. And the video is great. I just recorded it, and at the beginning, we talk about what passive and active learning is, and then we talk about ways to be a more active learner. And a lot of those ways are free. So the training is free to you, free to everybody, at plainenglish.com/active. It's easy to remember. Active. ACTIVE. plainenglish.com/active. And the video is right there. You can watch it all at once. You can pause it. You can watch it twice. No problem. plainenglish.com/active. And you'll get that great 30-minute training 100% for free. You can do it over the weekend, and then you'll have even more plain English in your life than normal. How about that? Plainenglish.com/active. Go there now.